Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for a forum on the postgraduate studies, especially specifically concerning with masters and also PhD by research. This is in accordance to our virtual postgraduate info week. So I'm going to we are going to talk about the path that is less traveled. That in particular PhD by published work and also dual award degree. Myself is Prof. Shah Mariam binti Muhammad. I am also the program director for the Masters and PhD by Research, and at the same time, I'm also the associate dean of the School of Postgraduate Studies. So together with me is Dr. Mark Kitke. She is now a lecturer in pharmaceutical chemistry. She was our PhD student all the way with us. And Dr. Mark has actually done a PhD by published work. All right. Just to give you some information about our regular Masters and PhD by our master's program, you can either do it full time, which takes about 1 year to 4 years maximum, or in a part-time mode, which takes about 2 to 4 years, 2 to 6 years altogether, if you're doing part-time. And for PhD, we have for full-time, it takes about 3 to 7 years maximum. And for part-time, we take about 4 to 8 years to the maximum. But honestly, if we're talking about doing postgraduate studies by research, it is very recommended for you to take in a full-time mode, because most of the time you'll be doing your research in the lab, and there's a lot of time required for you to take up to do the research work, and at the same time doing analysis and so on and so forth. So very, very recommended. If you were to enroll into our PhD or masters, it's better for you to be enrolled as a full-time student. Okay, so that's the general information, because all other specific information you can get it from our website. Okay, so I think without further ado, I will invite Dr. Mark. Or before that, just some housekeeping rule. Okay, we have muted all the microphones for all the attendees. So should you have any question or any feedback you would like to give us, please use the Q&A panel right at the bottom of the Zoom page. Okay, and this live webinar will be recorded. All right, so I shall pass it over to Dr. Mark Kitke to talk about her experience doing PhD by published work. All right, over to you, Dr. Mark.
Thank you, Prof. Shah. Okay, so thank you so much, Prof. Shah, for the introduction. So good evening to all of you who are tuning in today. I'm really excited to be able to share my work and also my experience throughout this PhD and also PhD by publication. It is not a conventional way of completing a PhD, because usually PhD candidates, they usually complete by submitting a thesis. But for my case, I actually completed by publishing my work. Okay, so I will just briefly go through my PhD journey with you, starting from the year 2019. So in the year 2019 is when I registered for my PhD under the IMU scholarship. Okay, so in the same year, I was also fortunate enough to receive a fellowship from WeCare. So WeCare stands for the Wellcome Center for Anti-Infectives Research. Okay, so in the year 2019, I started my PhD and I spent a year in WeCare, and I came back to Malaysia in the year 2020. And of course, unfortunately, 2020 was also the year when COVID hit us globally. Okay, it was definitely a worrying time, not just for me, but for everyone, because everything was very uncertain, and it was just generally a very, very worrying time in everybody's life. So in the year 2021, things were improving. Okay, things were starting to go back to normal very slowly. Most of teaching and learning activities were conducted online. Also, a lot of events, meetings were all held, such as what we're doing now, which is through webinars and through platforms accessible by most people with internet. Okay, so even though things were starting to get back in the year 2021, we were allowed to go back to the lab to do our work on a permission basis. Okay, things were still quite slow for in this case, for me, for my work. Okay, in actual fact, in the year 2022 is when I was able to really maximize my time, working long hours and also throughout the weekends to complete most of my wet lab work. And in that year, I also managed to publish my papers. Okay, and in the year 2023, which is this year, I successfully completed my PhD. Okay, so just to briefly go through some of the things that I've done. So in the year 2019, again, I spent my 1 year to be trained in drug discovery techniques and also drug metabolism and pharmacokinetics. So I mainly do my work in the WeCare Center and also shared some of the work in the drug discovery unit and also the School of Life Sciences at University of Dundee. So this is a brief bird's-eye view of how the building looks like. So these are all laboratories dedicated to various aspects of work. Okay, so for my PhD, I work on the integration of artificial intelligence and computer-aided drug discovery to develop new molecules having the potential to someday be a medicine. Okay, and the molecule that I'm working on actually focuses on activating a particular protein in our body that is called NRF2. And this protein is responsible for alleviating inflammation and also neuroinflammation. So at that time, in 2019, when I just started, I was under 2 supervisors from IMU. And these 2 supervisors are Prof. Zulkifli, or also I call him Prof. Zul, and also Prof. Arjun. So these 2 were my supervisors from IMU. So when I was in Dundee doing my fellowship in WeCare, I met a professor whose pioneer work was actually in the activation of NRF2, which is the protein that I was studying. Okay, so she is Prof. Albina. At the same time, I also met a drug metabolism and pharmacokinetics expert called Dr. Ola. So both of my supervisors, Prof. Zul and Prof. Arjun, actually, suggested me to approach them and have them be part of my supervisory committee, which I was again very fortunate that they agreed to be part of my supervisors. Okay, so some of my fondest memories were, having the opportunity to share my work, to have scientific discussions, and also presenting my work at international conferences and meeting new people. So these are some of the important things also that I will share later on in the next slide, which are the tricks that I've learned after completing my PhD. So there are a few things that I've learned, definitely, and I hope that you will find some of these tips to be helpful for you in your career. Okay, so LinkedIn is a platform. I think most of us have heard of this platform before. So when I started, I was not aware of such a platform. So LinkedIn is actually introduced to me by my supervisor, Prof. Zul. So networking here actually plays a pivotal role, in achieving success, particularly in the professional realm. Okay, a substantial number of jobs, high-profile jobs, they honestly arise from recommendations or referrals from people that you know. So if you're able to expand your connection and network with people and have a common passion in certain areas of research, so that would be helpful to you also, in the future. So leveraging platforms like LinkedIn can significantly enhance your networking capabilities. So with LinkedIn Premium, LinkedIn Premium actually gives you lots of notifications tailored to your interests, like job notifications or opportunities. And it is also tailored to your expertise as well, because you list down some of the skills or techniques that you're really good at. So LinkedIn will then come in and recommend some of these opportunities to you. Okay, so with LinkedIn, you can also contact recruiters directly, because a lot of headhunters are also lingering on LinkedIn to look for people. Okay, and of course, you can get connected with other professionals. So Twitter is also another platform that is gaining traction for professionals. So you can connect with people, find out what people are doing, and also share your passion in Twitter, and it enables people to get connected. Okay, so one of this example is actually something that I've done in 2018. Okay, so in the year 2018, we had an international conference called the International Postgraduate Conference on Pharmaceutical Sciences. So this was the sixth installment of this conference, and it was a collaborative effort between IMU, Tokyo University of Science, and also UITM. It was also the same year when we celebrated one of the program's 10th year anniversary, which was the pharmaceutical chemistry degree. So at that time, I had the opportunity to be the organizing chair for the student committee. And through that, I was able to meet a lot of people. Okay, for example, some of the researchers from Tokyo University of Science, like Prof. Shin Aoki, and also professors from the University of Strathclyde, like Professor Brian Furman. So with that, I was actually able to obtain a short-term attachment with the Tokyo University of Science, but unfortunately, it was for the 2020 year duration, which was when COVID happened, and that was the reason why I did not get to go. But apart from that, I also, you're able to build such connections with these professionals, and doesn't mean that, next time there'll be another opportunity for you to go again. So it's always good to network and don't think that, it's too late to start, because it's never too late to start. Okay, so jumping back to my PhD work. So my work involved mainly the chemistry, which includes the synthesis and also analysis to characterize some of the molecules that I have designed and I have made. So from there, I will do some biological work to test the activity of these compounds, okay, using various methods, including cell culture methods, looking at the RNA gene expressions, protein expressions, and also animal work. Okay, once I get all this data, I will look at the computational methods to look at the statistical significance, whether or not my hypothesis could be proven right or proven wrong. Okay, so and also because my work includes artificial intelligence and the integration of computer-aided drug discovery. So this is a circular process where all these data will then be fed through the AI platforms to improve and improvise the design, where I need to go back again to redesign the new compounds and test them again. Okay, so from there, I will be able to get my output, which in my case was publications. So honestly, after my bench work, I was having a dilemma on whether or not I should just go to the conventional thesis route, okay, which would include a minimum of 5 chapters, okay, or should I actually look at the publication route, which includes a minimum of 5 publications as the first author. So I had a lot of discussions with my supervisory committee members. They encouraged me to go through publication, but they also cautioned me a lot about the possible risks, because having 5 papers accepted is quite difficult, and also having to divide my entire work into 5 papers needs a lot of proper planning and thinking. I've also spoken to some of my colleagues in the postgraduate colleagues who are doing their master's or PhD. They also share the same sentiment that, you know, publications is not an easy thing to achieve. Okay, so all in all, it is quite risky. Okay, so what exactly is actually PhD by publication? So a typical PhD thesis would normally require, you know, the submission of 5 chapters. So it would include work from previous people in the form of literature review. Okay, and then you have to put in your hypothesis, your research questions, your research objectives. After that, you need to write a detailed write-up on the methodology, how you've conducted your experiment, and the experiment design to test your hypothesis. Following that, we need to actually report your results and whether or not these results are, you know, how they're collected, how they're analyzed, and whether or not they're reproducible. This is followed by a discussion and lastly a conclusion. So that is a typical thesis format. So in my case, PhD by published work is, you know, as the name implies, it's by publication. So you, a candidate who is interested to complete their PhD by publication, okay, must complete a minimum of 3 years. So you need to have at least 3 years in your PhD candidature before you can submit these documents that I will talk about a bit later. Okay, so some of this include, okay, a minimum of 5 publications during your PhD candidature as the principal author, or this is also known as the first author. Okay, they could either be a review paper or a research paper. Okay, and you have to, the candidature through this publication must meet the objectives of the original research proposal. Okay, and all these publications must also be published in journals that are indexed, whether they are Web of Science, Scopus, MySite, or equivalent indexing platforms that are recognized by IMU. Okay, after all of that is done, once, you know, I have my 5 papers, I had to write a letter of intent to inform the dean and show all this evidence of my publication. Okay, and then I will have to wait for the permission on whether or not I can actually defend my work through Viva, having going this route, which is through publication. So this is the part where, you know, my supervisory committee was telling me how the risk comes into the picture. Okay, after careful analysis of the potential benefits versus, you know, the risk that I have mentioned, I've decided to go for publication. And now I will tell you why, okay, I've chosen to go this route, even though it has the element of risks. Okay, so through publications, it is benchmarked to international standards. So your publications are actually peer reviewed, and then they are shared with the scientific community. So from there, you get some confidence on the quality of your work. And of course, during the submission and review process, you will also get constructive feedback to further improve your work, whether it is suggestions or additional steps on how to make your work more meaningful. Okay, publications are great because, okay, they add value to your CV. They are also a form of tangible output to show that you are indeed more or less, you know, well versed in the area of research or area of work that you do. Okay, it can accelerate your career growth. It saves time and energy because the reason why it saves time and energy is because writing a thesis, most of the people, after they have written their thesis, they will then try to convert that into papers. So what I've done here essentially is to go for publications. Okay, and you also get international recognition through your profiles like the ORCID IDs or your Google Scholar profiles. Okay, so all in all, these are the outcomes from my PhD by publication. I've actually published 8 papers, 5 of which are research papers and 3 are review articles. So I've listed all the articles here at the site. So the total H index from all these publications that I've gotten is around 53.33, which is quite a high number. Okay. From here, because I have published in these areas, okay, chemistry, the biological activity, or also, reviews on the use of artificial intelligence in drug discovery and also drug metabolism and pharmacokinetics. So all this, like I said, they kind of show that, these are the tangible outputs from your work. And from there, I received invitation to write book chapters on AI and also DMPK. Okay, this also allows me to have international collaboration, and I also receive invitation as guest editors. So, and lastly, from my defense of my work through publication, I was also able to receive good comments from my examiners. So to me personally, I feel that yes, there are risks involved in this unconventional method, PhD by publication, but at the same time, I also feel that there are benefits that outweighs the risk. So if you have your work done with proper planning and support from your supervisor, I think this is a good way to go to actually complete your PhD. Okay, so that is all that I have to share with you today on my experience. So I will now pass the session back to Prof. Shah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mark. Please, if you have any question, type in the Q&A box, and then we will review all the questions at the end of the presentation. So to be honest, I must congratulate Dr. Mark for her hard work. She's a very disciplined soul, because without which she wouldn't be able to accomplish that many publications. Because under the normal conventional PhD program, the requirement for publication in MU is just 2 papers, 2 full papers. You should be submitting an evidence of submission of the papers, all right, and together with your thesis before you can move on, or before you are eligible to go into the viva. All right. So Dr. Mark has been very brave to go against that. She has the confidence to publish more than what is required, and therefore she chose this pathway. Okay, PhD by published work. As you can see that it's a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, but at the same time, at the end of the day, the research output that matters, right? Which I think all the researchers know that it is very important for us to publish whatever we have through our findings from the research project. Okay, so I shall move on. Okay, there's one question which I will attend to after the second presentation. Okay, I shall share my screen. All right, another pathway to do the PhD is by doing dual award doctoral degree. Now, I am presenting on behalf of Ms. Keisha, Dr. Keisha Tirushelvam. She has finished her work and she has graduated recently. Okay, so she did the PhD and she was awarded as a dual degree from IMU and also the University of Newcastle. So Dr. Keisha has actually spent about 4 years altogether to complete her PhD work, of which she started in 2018 and finished in 2022. So half of the PhD work is accomplished at the University of Newcastle, Australia, and the other half of her PhD work is accomplished at the IMU itself. All right. Now, she worked on the thesis titled Pharmacies-Led Medication Reviews to Improve Medication Use by Older Women, the Uptake, Impact, and also Enabling Technology. So this thesis was submitted in the fulfillment of the requirements for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Pharmacy from the University of Newcastle, and also Doctor of Philosophy in Medical and Health Sciences from IMU. Right. In the University of Newcastle, she was affiliated to two centers, which are the School of Biomedical Science and Pharmacy, and also Hunter Medical Research Institute. With the IMU, she is affiliated with the School of Postgraduate Studies. Okay. Now, why did she choose the dual degree or pathway? Because obviously it's going to be very attractive to future employers. If the more you gain, the more experience you get from different places, of course that will shine you off as compared to other candidates. Okay, it will provide insight, also experience in two different work cultures and experience. As we know that even though we are all scientists, collectively known as scientists, but the work culture, the work experience is definitely different from country to country, right? For example, you can see just now what Dr. Mark has shown you. You know, they have a different setup of labs and definitely different work cultures altogether as compared to what we have in Malaysia. All right. From this, it enables the candidate to get valuable insight from supervisors, both from Australia and also Malaysia. So, you know, it's always good to collaborate with as many partners as possible. I think Dr. Mark just now also mentioned quite a lot about having good collaboration because it widens, you know, the horizon of your research field. Okay? It makes a very good and excellent connections and networking among the Australians, and of course within the Australian community, scientific community themselves, they also have other networking with other countries too. So in other words, when you are there, you also have the opportunity to get in touch with other scientists all over the world. Okay, and also for the fact that IMU ourselves has got so many partner schools which we can collaborate with. Okay, and through this pathway, Dr. Kesha mentioned that that allows her to experience the PhD journey outside Malaysia without being away for too long. So she technically spent about just 2 years in Australia. Right. Of course, along the way, I think regardless which pathway you are taking, there's always challenges. Okay, knowing that PhD itself takes at least 3 years. Okay, so if you have a longer period doing the PhD, definitely there will be more and more challenges that will come along. So for Dr. Kesha herself, she has to juggle a lot with her work and also studies, adapting herself to the new environment, juggling PhD work with other 4 academic courses. Because in Australia, she has the opportunity to take up extra courses. Okay, this is mainly to enhance her knowledge, to strengthen her expertise within her field. So she took that opportunity. Some courses are free courses, some of the courses are paid courses, right? So some of those courses are not available here in Malaysia. So by doing this, she had that opportunity to explore further and join other academic courses. Just like Dr. Mark just now, Dr. Kesha also was badly hit during the COVID-19. She couldn't return to Malaysia for holidays, neither can she do her work 100% in the lab during that time, right? So there are lots of restrictions, and at that time, Australia also has their own rules and regulations with regards to COVID-19. Okay, now just lucky for Dr. Kesha, at the end, towards the end of her PhD candidature, she got married, and being away from the family, it puts her into quite a challenging situation at that time. So support from family members and also the friends are very, very important for her to keep moving, because she was just a little bit more to finish when she got married at that point of time. So definitely, any student, I think this goes without saying, whether you are doing your master's or you're doing PhD, there will be ups and downs, right? There will be burnout period. Okay, so how Dr. Kesha helped herself to prevent that sort of burnout is by just having positive mindset. That would be the most important thing, right? Always think positive, surround yourself with positive-minded and supportive people. Okay, don't be shy to ask for help, okay? Even from your colleagues. All right, even when they are doing the same thing like you, share things. Okay, now having good social support from the families and friends is also very important, because as I said, that sometimes experiments doesn't work as you wish. So at that point of time, your mood will go down and your motivation goes somewhere else. So it's very difficult for you to get yourself back together. All right. So support from family members and friends, close friends, are very important. Now, she pointed out this very important point here: let go of perfectionism. Okay, no doubt, some of us are very perfectionist in nature. We want things to work out. All right, as if you are familiar with research work, before you start your work, you have you should come up with your research objective and follows with research hypothesis, right? So this is what you expect to get from your research work. But don't worry if you do not get whatever you expected. Okay, it cannot be perfect. What more when you are dealing with life things. Okay, so this PhD and this master's program is basically in health sciences, which means that you are always dealing with uncertainty. Okay, day one you will see this sort of result. If you were repeat it again in day three, it will give you another set of results, right? So that's the reason why we need to have a very reasonable amount of sample test, okay, in order for you to do that statistical analysis to validate whatever your observation is. All right, so forget about being perfectionist. Okay. Dr. Kesha also finds it is good to pace yourself and prioritize what was important for the day. You've got so much things on your plate, everything, all right? If you're not structured enough, okay, how can you be structured? Is by prioritizing whatever that you need to do, at least day by day. So that keeps you moving, all right? Rather than thinking, oh, I have to complete everything by today. That wouldn't work out, because at the end of the day, none of those will be accomplished, right? So better for you to prioritize and get yourself at the right pace according to your capacity. Okay. Now, get enough sleep, at least 7 hours. Okay, it's very important. I think physiologically that explains well, right? She nurtured herself well, and she engaged in a lot of relaxation activities at the end of the day. Meaning to say that it's not about 24 hours working in the lab. Well, some cultures, for example, if you're working, talking from my experience working in labs in Japan, right? Their active hours were actually after 12 midnight. So you can see even at 2 a.m., the environment in the lab was very, very lively. Okay, So again, it's about adapting to the cultures, but at the end of the day, you need the rest for yourself. Okay. As what Dr. Mark has presented just now, the benefits of doing this program still outweighs all the challenges that she has faced. Okay. For Dr. Kisha, she only has one thesis to be prepared. Okay, but she obtained 2 degrees at the same time. Okay. And there's a confirmation process in Australia, meaning to say that she has to defend the proposal first, which actually prepares her to move on to her actual PhD work, so as to provide a clear pathway on how to proceed with the work. Okay. And of course, right at the end, after she has finished her lab work, bench work, doing the write-up, submit the thesis, there will be Viva. I think Viva goes all across any postgraduate programs. Okay, and this Viva helps to strengthen the understanding of the work as a whole, because during Viva, it is only you who know your work, right? Not even your supervisor. So take that ownership. Okay. Gaining invaluable assistance from the support staff, both in IMU, in Malaysia, and at the same time, well, when Dr. Kisha was in Malaysia, she got a good support from IMU, right, to link her back to Australian counterpart. And when she was in Australia, there's also a very good support staff that will link her back to IMU. So it's very crucial for us not to just work in our laboratory, but also having good rapport with all the support staff to help you whenever needed. Okay. For Dr. Kisha, she found that she got a lot of opportunities to enroll in supplementary courses for free in Australia, which actually helped her to achieve her PhD objective. For example, for her, she gained more knowledge in biostatistics, epidemiology through all these courses that she attended in Australia. Okay. Subsequently, Dr. Kisha has posted some interesting pictures, which, as you can see, is very interesting, and you can't get this experience in Malaysia. It's different, culture, different environment altogether. All right, so that's Dr. Kisha. She has presented. She has the opportunity to present in various international conferences. Okay, she made a lot of connections, not just among the Australian, but with other nationalities as well. All right, and that's her supervisors, the Australian supervisors. Okay. And so she had a fabulous time during breaks, and go and visit some places, which the opportunity would be there if you were to explore or get yourself into programs at different countries. All right. Yeah. So that's basically it about Dr. Kisha's experience with the dual award degree in PhD. So I can take, or we, myself and Dr. Mark can take any question. The first question is, how do we get the research topic and supervisor? Right. So usually you will have to indicate your interest to join the program. Okay. And that will be done through admission. And it is best for you to come up with your own proposal first. At least when we admit you, we know what is your field of interest, right? So with that, the School of Postgraduate Studies will match you with the potential supervisors who are the experts within that field in our faculty, right? Let's say, but don't worry, if you do not have any proposal in mind as yet, but at least you give us some indication of what field are you interested in. So we can blast it to our faculty and see who can help you in refining your research proposal. So there would be, a discussion. The potential supervisors will contact you, and then you both parties will have to discuss and see what would be the areas of interest. Well, maybe Dr. Mark, you would like to tell us about your experience,
Yeah.
getting
Okay.
your topic and, selecting supervisors.
Yeah. So I think I will have to then start to talk about from the end of my master's. Okay. So for my master's, it is a similar work on the protein and also the chemistry. But in my PhD, I incorporated more designing, which is using AI and also computer-aided drug design, those two aspects, and also the drug metabolism field. So for my case, I knew that I wanted to continue, studying into this field. And at that time, my supervisor, my principal supervisor, Prof. Arjun, was also my master's supervisor. So it was quite easy for me, for my case, to actually continue to pursue PhD through that. And in my sharing, I've also mentioned that, really due to chance, I was able to meet two other supervisors from Dundee who are pioneers in those fields, which I was able to, ask them to be part of my supervisory committee. So I think this could be a case-to-case basis, but sharing from, some of my colleagues who are working in the same research group, so they also submitted their proposal, like what Prof. Shah has mentioned. They submitted the proposal or indicated the area of work that they're interested in, and then this information will be shared with the researchers in IMU to see, if there is any similarity in kind of work or the matching process. Then the students will actually be introduced to those supervisors.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mark. Second question, can the research be done at my workplace? Okay, now in principle, yes, it can be done, but the principal investigator or your main supervisor would need to be an IMU faculty, right? So there should be another person from your workplace to be your co-supervisor, the co-supervisor. All right, so yes, that is possible. Right. Is there any grant for specific area and topic? Okay. Some of the researchers in IMU do hold a grant, right? So depending on whether or not they can cover your area interest, then in other words, that there would be grant for you to start working on your research work. But at the same time, if there is no grant available, IMU does provide our own internal grant, which amount to, for PhD, is about 60,000 K, all right, to start with. And at the same time, you are encouraged to look for or search for other external grants to support your research. Okay, to start with, yes, we do have internal grant for you to start your work before anything. You want to add on anything, Dr. Mark?
No, I think nothing from me.
All right. So if you have collaboration, if you set up a collaboration with other external parties, like for example, Dr. Mark herself, right? She has lots of networks. So getting grants, okay, the opportunity to get grants, external grants, is always there. All right. The more you network, the more opportunity you will get. Okay. Right. Any other questions? Well, we really appreciate your interest and thank you for joining us this evening. Hopefully, it will give you some insights of what are the pathway available for PhD studies, right? Master studies is very much pretty straightforward, because masters is usually very short period of time. So you won't be able to do like what Dr. Mark has gone through, okay? Because that will require, to get publications is not easy. That's why I really, salute what Dr. Mark has achieved so far. 8 publications within 3 years. Wow, that's amazing achievement. Okay. Which means that it is not impossible. Can be done with very good discipline, self-discipline. Okay. Would there be any other question that we can take? All right. I guess if there is none, I thank you all again for joining us this evening. And please do not hesitate to contact us anytime. You can always reach out to our admissions with any questions, and they will get back to us. And we will respond as soon as possible. Okay. So thank you again, Dr. Mark, for sharing your experience with the participants, and hopefully it will stimulate their interest more. And I hope to see you guys one day and have a very good evening, and also have a good weekend. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Thank you.